Well, here we are, Christmas Eve. Actually, we should probably say, here we are not. I'm standing in the sanctuary at Gloria Dei, all alone, save for a camera and a couple of lights, and it just doesn't feel right at all. You are not here. I miss the dull roar of the pre-service chatter that usually fills this room as we're gathering for Christmas Eve worship. I miss seeing college students who have been gone since summer but have now returned home for the holidays. I miss the crying babies. I miss singing carols together, hearing the glorious brass accompaniment to the hymns, joining our voices in beautiful four-part harmony as we sing Silent Night by candlelight. I miss sharing the peace, serving communion, greeting all of you after worship at the back of the church. I miss your Norwegian sweaters. Most of all, I miss you. I know I speak for all of the pastors and staff at Gloria Dei when I say, we miss you all so much. It just doesn't feel like Christmas Eve when we can't be together. In so many ways, for so many of us, this has turned out to be a Christmas Eve not at all like the one we'd been hoping for. Our large family gatherings have been canceled. Most of us are gathered tonight just with our immediate families in the same homes where we've been tripping over each other for the past several months, in front of the same screens that have been a source of both miraculous connection and mind-numbing exhaustion. Some of you are spending this Christmas alone. Your sense of isolation only exacerbated by the holiday. Maybe you have a Zoom meeting or two scheduled with family or friends, but we've all learned what a poor substitute that is for the physical connection we share when we're gathered together in person. Some of us are missing family members who have died since last Christmas, heartbroken about funerals we weren't able to have, trying to process our grief all by ourselves, without the hugs and tears and the gestures of consolation that we offer one another when we gather as a community. I am certain that that first Christmas was not at all what Mary and Joseph had been hoping for either. Unlike all of us who have been forced into our homes, that young couple was forced out of their homes, compelled to make a difficult journey in accordance with Caesar's decree. The Holy Family understood back then, as well as we do today, how circumstances beyond our control can thrust us into a strange and uncertain existence. Even in first century Judea, an animal stable was probably the last place any expecting mother would hope to find herself on the night when she would give birth to her child. Nevertheless, there they are. Nobody else was there to support this young mother and inexperienced father and their vulnerable baby on the night Jesus was born. Mary's own mother couldn't be there to hold her hand and offer her encouragement. It is to a poor couple, ill-prepared for the task, displaced from their home, all alone and forced to make the best of an impossible situation, that God is born. The ELCA's presiding bishop, Elizabeth Eaton, put it this way. She says, "Precisely in our distress, in our dislocation, the Lord shows up. Emmanuel, God with us, makes his home in the very places we find foreign or isolating. There is no God-forsaken place, and we are never alone, not in hospital rooms or sheltering in place or on Zoom calls. God shows up. God is born in exactly those places where the situation seems most uncertain, where life is most precarious, where exhaustion has worn us down, where loneliness and despair are creeping in. God is born in the places where we are most afraid. In the places where God seems farthest off, that is where God is born. God is born, and a stable becomes the gateway to the divine. God is born, and stinky shepherds become the first ones to hear the good news. God is born, and even in the midst of hardship, we get a glimpse of transcendent beauty. Samuel Wells, who serves as the vicar at St. Martin in the Fields in London, recalls a conversation he had with a friend several years ago. The friend asked him, "What would you like written on your tombstone? What words of wisdom do you want to leave for those who come after you?" He says he blurted out a phrase that he had never said aloud before, something that just came into his mind instantaneously. He said his tombstone should say, "If it can't be happy, make it beautiful." He says he's continued to reflect on that epitaph since the day it first came to him, that this expression has become his advice for almost every occasion when friends or congregation members face profound grief, their own mortality, or terrible distress. As a widower plans a funeral or a person faces another kind of loss, he invariably returns to those simple words, saying, "I hope that in the midst of your sorrow and the bleakness of what you're facing, you can yet find a way to make it beautiful." He goes on, "Making it beautiful is about realizing we're usually operating on a mundane level, where things will seldom make sense and where most things are fragile and contingent. In the face of dismay," he says, "the best approach is to go up a level, to a realm of fittingness, recalibrated priorities, God's kingdom." Making it beautiful also addresses the powerlessness at the heart of grief. He says, "There is, it turns out, something you can do, and that is to take the wisdom, grace, or soul of what's been lost and portray its transcendent quality in word, deed, or collective gesture." It strikes me that on that first Christmas, on a cold night, in a dark stable, where a displaced family took their rest on beds of hay and a teenage mother gave birth to her firstborn son, God took an impossible situation and made it beautiful. It was a miserable night that somehow, by God's grace, was so much more. Somehow, despite the grim circumstances, the young couple had an experience of divine transcendence, of unexpected glory. Shepherds, accustomed to being overlooked, were visited on a hillside by angels who told them to make haste, go to Bethlehem, and get a glimpse of the miraculous thing God is doing in a barn on the edge of town. By some great mystery, animals saw their newborn Lord lying in a manger. The situation was bleak. For Mary and Joseph, it must not have felt very happy. But God infused it with grace. God made it beautiful. So that's my prayer for you tonight. that even if it can't be happy, God would make this Christmas beautiful. That God would infuse your gathering, such as it is, with unexpected glory. That you would experience transcendence and wonder and deep abiding joy in the assurance that Emmanuel, God with us, is here, is there where you are, with you, born for you, making a home with you this day. Jesus Christ, a living, breathing, beautiful sign that God is never far off. Dear friends, Merry Christmas.